I opened my eyes to the blinding white ceiling of the ICU, my chest burning like someone had jammed a hot rod through my ribs. Tubes ran from my arms. Machines beeped to the rhythm of borrowed time, and every breath felt like it might be my last. But that wasn't the part that broke me. The part that shattered me was her absence. I had been in a car wreck, blindsided by a drunk at an intersection on my way to pick up dinner for us. I was supposed to be in and out in 20 minutes. Instead, I was cut from the wreckage with my heart barely beating, and I remember gasping one name, one word, as the paramedics hovered over me. Emily, my wife, the woman I built my life around. She didn't answer the first call, or the second, or the 12 that followed. I lay there in a morphine haze, begging a nurse to try again. My phone was nearly dead, and I could barely move my arm. But she still didn't come. No reply. No call back. Nothing. Hours passed. My lungs hurt. My side was stitched like a quilt. My collarbone cracked. Still nothing. Until the nurse finally looked up from her phone and said, with this weird, confused look on her face. She texted, said she can't come right now. Her sister's crying over paint colors. I thought she was kidding. I laughed, coughed up blood, cried, paint, F asterisk 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 ing paint. I didn't have time for hope anymore. So I told the nurse to call my lawyer. Yeah, while I was bleeding under sterile lights, I gave orders to bring in David Miller, divorce specialist, shark in a suit, the kind of man who didn't blink when you said, burn it all. When Emily finally walked in the next morning, hours too late, she had the nerve to look annoyed. God, Tyler, you're alive. Why are you acting like I murdered someone? She actually rolled her eyes. Her makeup was perfect, her nails painted, and not a damn bit of guilt in her tone. I just looked at her, dead in the eyes, and I said, check with the nurse. She has something for you. She looked confused, until the nurse handed her the envelope. Thick, cream-colored, legal-sized. She read the first page, and I swear to God, I watched her soul crack. Her jaw tightened. Her lips went white. And for the first time in years, Emily didn't have something smug to say. You're divorcing me? She stuttered, but her voice wasn't shocked. It was offended. You ignored 18 missed calls. From the hospital. I could have died, I said, voice flat. Because Madison couldn't pick a damn shade of beige? Emily blinked hard, then scoffed like she was trying to flip the script. Tyler, don't be dramatic. You weren't in a coma. And you know how Madison gets. I didn't think it was that serious. That was it. That sentence. I could have died, and she didn't think it was that serious. And that's when it hit me. It wasn't just about paint. It was never about her sister. It was about the fact that somewhere along the way, Emily stopped giving a damn. About me. About us. She left me bleeding alone in a hospital bed. And I was done. She finally hissed, you're overreacting. Everyone has moments. If you're going to be a child about this, then maybe it's better this way. I looked her in the eyes, feeling nothing but cold. It already is. That was the beginning. And I had no idea. It was only the surface of the betrayal. The truth would rip deeper. So much deeper. Emily stormed out of the ICU like she was the one who'd just been wronged. Not a single glance back. Not one tear. Not even the decency to pretend she cared. The nurse standing nearby just shook her head. She didn't say anything, but I could see it all over her face. Pity, confusion, maybe even a little disgust. David came back that afternoon with a few more forms. You sure you want to move this fast? He asked, flipping through the folder. Still in the hospital gown and everything. I should have done it a year ago, I muttered, forcing myself upright. The stitches pulled hard, but the pain grounded me. This just made it easy. I didn't sleep that night. I couldn't. Something kept itching in the back of my brain. A voice that wouldn't shut up. Something's off. This isn't just emotional neglect. She wasn't just distracted. She wanted to miss that call. It started to click. The late nights, she brushed off. The new book club that met every Thursday at some stranger's apartment downtown. The perfume that lingered on her skin when she came back that didn't belong to me. The guarded look in her eyes every time she'd get a text and flip her phone face down. I felt like an idiot. I was an idiot. All the signs were there. When I got discharged, I didn't go home. I told Emily the doctors recommended I stay with family for recovery, and she didn't argue. Didn't offer to help. Didn't even ask which family. I went to my brother Logan's place instead. He had a spare room, and more importantly, a damn good internet connection. I pulled up our phone records. Then I pulled up our shared account history. I don't even know what I was hoping to find. Maybe reassurance that I was just paranoid. But no. Over $600 spent in the last month at a hotel in the city. Twice a week. Same days as her book club. I stared at the screen, then whispered, "Say the name." Because deep down, I already knew. It was her boss, Patrick Bennett. The same smug prick who used to send me bourbon every Christmas and call me brother. The one who kept inviting Emily to those company retreats I was never welcome at. The one who said, "Tyler, you're lucky, man. A woman like that. A keeper." I found his name on a bill from a private dinner reservation. He used our joint card. Maybe by accident, maybe on purpose. I don't know. What I do know is they ordered the chef's tasting menu, wine pairings, and 2 desserts. On the night, I was in the ER for a food allergy scare, and Emily claimed she was with her mom. I called David the next morning. Add adultery to the grounds. He didn't even flinch. "You got proof?" "Oh," I said, flipping open the screenshots I took. "I've got a whole album." I played it cool for 2 more days. Texted Emily sweet nothings. Pretended like I was just taking time to recover. Meanwhile, I hacked the security cameras at our house. Turns out Emily had disconnected the front feed, but not the one in the garage. And that one caught everything. I watched her step out of Patrick's BMW at 1:34 a.m., laughing, stumbling, wrapped in his blazer like they were coming back from prom. She kissed him, slow, sloppy, like she forgot what shame was. Then they walked inside my house like they owned it. I closed the video and leaned back. It wasn't pain anymore. It was something else. Quiet. Sharp. Calculated. This wasn't going to be a breakup. This was going to be a reckoning. And when I was done, she wouldn't see it coming. I waited 1 more week before I moved. I needed her to feel safe. I needed her to feel untouchable. And most of all, I needed her to underestimate me. She started texting again, playing the caring wife. "How are you feeling, babe? Need anything from the house? I miss you." She even sent me a selfie in one of my old t-shirts. The same one I saw crumpled on the garage floor next to Patrick's shoes. The nerve. I didn't respond. I let her messages pile up. Instead, I paid a visit to an old college friend, Mason, private investigator now. We hadn't talked in years, but he didn't need convincing once I showed him the footage. He started trailing her immediately. The first report came in 48 hours later. She wasn't hiding anymore. She and Patrick had lunch at a rooftop restaurant. She kissed him at the table. She laughed so loudly it turned heads. She fed him with her fingers. The worst part? She looked happy. Effortlessly happy. The kind of happy I hadn't seen on her face in years. And it was like she wanted the world to see it. To see her finally free. But she wasn't free. Not yet. By day 5, Mason had everything. Times, photos, receipts, license plates, hotel logs, signed under fake names like it made a difference. He even got one video of them in the parking lot of the Four Seasons, her hand sliding under his blazer, giggling like a teenager. That was the one I saved. I scheduled a dinner. Texted her on a Sunday morning. "I want to talk. I don't want things to end like this. Let's have one last dinner, like adults." She answered in 5 minutes. "Sure." Thursday. I picked the restaurant, some fancy overpriced place she loved. Made the reservation. Then I forwarded everything to my lawyer. David grinned on the call. "You really want to serve her there?" "Oh yeah," I said, while the dessert's still warm. Thursday came fast. I arrived first, with the documents sealed tight in a leather folder. Not just divorce papers, but a full breakdown of her violations, her infidelity, financial misconduct, and a revised prenup she forgot she signed in 2017 that kicked in if adultery occurred. She walked in 15 minutes late, of course. Wearing red. Always red. Hair curled. Lips glossy. That smug little tilt to her head that used to drive me crazy. Now it just looked pathetic. She sat down like this was some closure fantasy. "You look better," she said, stirring her wine. "Maybe all that time alone helped you realize we both made mistakes." I nodded. "I did. I made one big mistake, actually." She tilted her head. "What's that?" I slid the folder across the table. She opened it, smiled for a second. Then her face dropped, like the floor disappeared under her. "What is this?" "Proof," I said calmly, "of who you really are, and what you did, and what you've lost." She started to speak, but I cut her off. "Oh, and your company's legal department gets a copy too. Pretty sure HR has a no fraternizing clause, especially with the CEO." She went pale. For the first time, genuinely speechless. "You don't get to walk away from this clean, Emily," I whispered. You walked out on me in a hospital. You mocked me. You cheated in my house, in our bed. And you thought I'd just disappear quietly. The silence sat between us for a full minute. Then she whispered, "You're really doing this?" I stared right through her. "No, I already did." She stood, shaking now, grabbing her purse. "You bastard. You planned this." "Yes," I said, standing too. "The same way you planned your little hotel getaways. Only I have the receipts." She looked like she might throw the wine at me. But she didn't. She left. And I sat down, smiled at the waiter, and said, "I'll still take the creme brulee." When I got back to Logan's that night, I didn't feel triumphant. I didn't feel angry either. Just empty. I watched the video again. The one where she stumbled into Patrick's arms. The same arms that should have been mine in moments like that. Not because I missed her. Not because I wanted her back. But because I needed to stare at what she really was, without the rose-colored lens I wore for years. It wasn't love. It was possession. A performance. One long audition for a part she never even cared to play right. Logan walked in with 2 beers and dropped next to me on the couch. "You actually did it?" She looked like she saw a ghost, I said, still looking at the paused frame of her kissing Patrick in our driveway. Like someone finally turned on the lights. About damn time. He clinked bottles with me, and for a moment, there was peace. Brief, but real. The next morning, the messages started. The first one was short. "Emily, you don't understand what you're doing. Please let's talk." The second was longer, trying to rewrite history. "Emily, it was never serious with him. You were so distant. I was lonely. It just happened." The third? Classic Emily. "Emily, if you go through with this, you'll regret it. You're throwing away everything we built." She didn't even try to apologize until message 5. And even then, it was laced with blame. "Emily, I'm sorry, okay? But you weren't there for me emotionally. You stopped making me feel wanted. What was I supposed to do?" There it was. What was I supposed to do? Like betrayal was her only option. Like screwing her boss while I recovered from a car crash was some kind of twisted therapy. I didn't answer any of them. Not until the one where she finally broke character. "Emily, you sent the files to HR? Patrick's suspended pending review. He's freaking out. You had no right." I replied with just one word. Actually, I had every right. That was the last time I ever messaged her. Days passed. I moved out of Logan's and into a short-term rental near the lake. Quiet place. No memories. No ghosts. Just me, a couch, and a window that let in real light. None of that filtered, cold glow our house used to have. David kept me updated. The divorce process was moving fast. Faster than most. Emily tried to fight it at first. Said she was entitled to her share. But once we showed the infidelity clause and the financial logs of her using our joint funds to rent hotel rooms for another man, she folded. She signed the papers 2 weeks later, without another word. Patrick got fired. And Emily? She vanished from social media. Friends told me she tried to spin the story, but it didn't stick. Nobody bought it. Turns out, being the woman who left her husband alone in an ICU for a paint color crisis isn't the best look. I should have felt like I'd won. But it wasn't a win. It was a release. One night, a few weeks later, I got a package. No return address. Inside was a small, old photo of us, me and her in the mountains, before the wedding. Before everything. On the back, in her handwriting, "I did love you. I just didn't know how to be who you deserved." No signature. No number. I burned it in the fireplace that night, without even flinching. She loved herself. She loved control. She loved the lie more than she ever loved me. And I had finally stopped loving the version of her that never existed. A month later, I walked into the house one last time. It was part of the agreement. She'd vacate. I'd take ownership, and the rest would go through auction. I hadn't stepped foot inside since that night. She walked in with Patrick's blazer on her shoulders. Since the cameras caught her pretending my life was disposable. The door creaked the same way it always had, but everything else felt foreign. The air was stale. Her scent was gone, replaced with the cold emptiness of rooms that had heard too many lies. In the living room, a single key sat on the coffee table, with a note. "Guess you got everything you wanted. Hope it makes you happy." I didn't even touch it. I slid it aside like it was contaminated. Upstairs, our bedroom still had that stupid candle she loved, sandalwood and fig, or something ridiculous like that. I lit it, not because I missed her, but because I wanted to burn the memory out of the walls. In the closet, I found a box she must have forgotten. Inside were old photos, receipts, Cards I'd written her on our anniversaries. One she pretended to love, read aloud with tears in her eyes. Now I realized she probably never read them at all. I packed none of it. I called a junk service and told them to haul away everything in the bedroom and closet. Burn it, toss it, I didn't care. That night, I slept on the floor of my old office. No bed, no distractions, just me, a blanket, and the silence I'd been craving for years. Not the fake kind we used to have, where no one spoke because there was nothing left to say. This was real silence. Peaceful. Still. In the morning, I made coffee and stood by the window as the sunrise cut through the trees. I had no idea what came next. I didn't have a plan, didn't have a timeline. But for the first time, I didn't feel like I needed one. She tried to spin everything upside down, gaslight me into thinking I was the problem, that I wasn't enough, that she had no choice but to crawl into bed with another man because I hadn't paid enough attention. But the truth? Emily was a master of performance. She didn't fall out of love, she fell out of excuses. She wanted something shiny, something new, something that didn't ask her to try, to grow, to give. So she took the easy way out and blamed me for bleeding. A few days later, I got a call from Madison, her sister. I almost didn't answer, but curiosity won. She started crying the moment I picked up. I didn't know how bad it really was, Tyler. I didn't know she ignored the hospital. I thought she was just being dramatic. I stayed quiet. I'm sorry. I really am. I think she's falling apart. She already did, I said, my voice calm. I'm just the one who stood back and watched. There was a pause. She misses you. She says she made a mistake. No, I said. She made a choice. Big difference. And I hung up. That was the last time I heard her name spoken by anyone who mattered. Weeks turned into months. I picked up freelancing again, started hiking on weekends, talked to my brother more. I even met a woman named Claire at a bookstore downtown. Quiet, thoughtful, nothing like Emily. I wasn't rushing into anything. Just letting life happen again. And somewhere between late nights by the fire and early morning walks through the fog, I realized something. She didn't break me. She freed me. And maybe that was the most unexpected gift she ever gave me. By tearing the illusion apart, she forced me to rebuild without the lie. And this time, I wasn't building it for her. I was building it for me. The first time I laughed again, really laughed, it caught me off guard. I was at this random outdoor market, picking up some stupid, overpriced granola Logan insisted I try. A street performer was butchering Elton John on a cheap keyboard, and a little girl nearby was dancing like she was on Broadway. Her mom was mortified, trying to pull her away, but the kid kept going, twirling, bowing, doing jazz hands like the world revolved around her rhythm. I stood there, watching, until something cracked open in my chest. And just like that, I laughed. Loud. Honest. A stranger turned to look at me, and I didn't even care. Because it felt good. Because it had been so damn long. That's what life was turning into. Small things. Real things. Not grand gestures or Instagrammable moments. Just moments that felt mine. My pace, my peace, my rules. A few weeks later, I saw Patrick. Of all places, at a gas station, middle of nowhere, wearing a wrinkled dress shirt and sweat-stained tie. He looked older. Hunched. Beaten. Like the fallout hadn't just hit his job, it hit him. He saw me across the lot and froze. I walked past him like he was a stranger. Because that's what he always was. A man so weak he needed to steal someone else's wife to feel important. I didn't know him a second glance. As I pulled out, I saw him watching me from behind his cracked windshield, like he wanted to say something. But he didn't. And that silence? That was my closure. One day, I finally walked through the door of a therapist's office. Not because I felt broken anymore, but because I wanted to understand how I let myself starve in a marriage for years and still called it love. She asked me, "Do you think you miss her?" I said, "No, I miss who I thought she was." That truth stung more than anything. Because when someone betrays you like that, it's not just about the act. It's about realizing that you've been clinging to a version of them that never existed. You weren't cheated on by the person you loved. You were cheated on by a stranger wearing their face. Emily wasn't the villain in a fairy tale. She was the slow poison in a wine glass I kept sipping because it was familiar. And once I stopped drinking it, once I cleared my system of her, the world started tasting different. Better. The final time she reached out was through a letter. No return address, no number, just one page. She said she was sorry. She said she didn't know what she was doing. She said she hoped I'd found peace. I burned it. Not out of spite. not even out of anger, but because I didn't need her words anymore. I already had peace. It came in the form of quiet mornings, solo road trips, a grilled cheese at 2 a.m. with no one criticizing my diet, a new playlist with no sad songs, long walks that didn't lead home but still felt like arriving. It came in the form of truth. And truth, it turns out, is the best damn revenge. I never imagined healing would feel this subtle. Not loud, not cinematic, no music swelling in the background, no grand revelation at sunset. Just little shifts, one after the other. Like one day I woke up and didn't think about her first. Like one night I went to bed and didn't replay the betrayal in my head like a horror film. I stopped checking her social media, stopped wondering who she was with, what she was doing, whether she regretted it. Because truth is, I didn't care anymore. I had stopped bleeding. And for once, I wasn't just surviving, I was living. Claire started showing up more often. It wasn't anything official. She'd bring over coffee and forget to take the mug back. I let her leave it. Then she left a book, a sweater, a toothbrush. We didn't talk about labels. Didn't need to. We were two people breathing in the same rhythm. She didn't ask about Emily. She didn't dig. She just met me where I was and never tried to pull me forward. That was the difference. One night, we were sitting on the porch, quiet between us, just the sound of crickets and the occasional gust of wind off the lake. She looked over and asked, "What do you think you learned from all of it?" I didn't answer right away. But then I said, that love doesn't mean sacrificing yourself. That silence isn't peace. That you can't save someone who doesn't want to be saved. She nodded. That's a lot. It cost a lot. And it did. The man I was when I married Emily, he's gone. He died in that hospital bed the night she chose paint colors over my life. And maybe that's what needed to happen. Because the man sitting here now, he's not bitter. He's not broken. He's just aware. Aware of the signs I ignored. The nights she came home smelling like a lie. The times she said, "You're just being paranoid," when my gut screamed otherwise. The way she'd weaponize tears, twist every confrontation into an attack against her. And the moment she walked into the ICU and made my pain about her. Those were all lessons written in blood. So if anyone ever asked me what advice I'd give, I'd say this. Don't ignore your instincts. Don't silence your voice to keep someone else comfortable. And never, ever give someone the power to convince you that loyalty makes you weak. Because love isn't supposed to cost your dignity. And trust? Once it's gone, it's not lost. It's taken. I finally forgave myself. Not for loving her, but for staying too long after I knew I shouldn't. And maybe that's all healing really is. Not forgetting. Just finally learning to live with the scar and knowing exactly where it came from. 1 year later, I stood at the same intersection where the accident happened. Same crooked stop sign. Same crack in the pavement. But this time, no wreckage. No sirens. Just me, leaning against my truck, coffee in hand, watching life move on like it always does. I wasn't there to relive the pain. I was there to remind myself what it took to get here. That moment, when I was bleeding behind a shattered windshield and whispering her name into the dark, I thought that was the worst day of my life. It wasn't. The worst day was realizing the woman I almost died loving didn't even flinch when she thought I might be gone. That truth broke something in me, but it also built something new. Now, I don't chase closure. I don't stalk shadows. I don't beg for answers from people who never deserve my questions. I live on my terms. Sometimes that means waking up alone and smiling at the quiet. Sometimes it means letting someone in without holding a measuring stick to their kindness. And sometimes it just means taking a deep breath and knowing I made it out. Not just out of the marriage, out of the fog, the denial, the sick cycle of justifying bad love with good memories. I keep a photo in my wallet now. Not of Emily, not of Claire, just me, standing on a cliff upstate, hands in my jacket pockets, wind in my face, eyes steady on the horizon. My brother took it a few months back and gave it to me with a simple note on the back. You're back. And I am. So if you're reading this because you're still stuck, still checking her texts, still making excuses, still bleeding quietly while pretending you're fine, listen carefully. You don't owe her your silence. You don't owe her your strength. You don't owe her a damn thing. Take your power back. Get out. Heal. And when you do, don't look back. Because the version of you who stayed too long, he doesn't live here anymore.